welcome to TUC0's Talks. It is another day that we get to learn some things on leadership. So I've been really excited, really thankful for everyone who has been watching, who has been commenting, sending me messages. It's just meant a lot to me. So thank you for doing that. One of the things that we're going to do today is something that's completely different. Something happened the other day. We had a couple of university presidents do congressional testimonies, and I had seen some clips, and I was like, that can't be how it really went down. So I went and watched 5 hours, 21 minutes and 26 seconds of congressional testimony of these university presidents. And I learned a couple things. One, clips only show you a segment, and you really need to go and research the topic. No one is going to give you the full truth, so you need to go find that truth and work through that. The other part is these are very complex issues, and it is very difficult to discuss them and to talk through them. And today, in a 20-30 minute talk, we're not going to be able to get to everything. However, there are some leadership issues that are very easy to talk about and are at the lowest leadership level. And so, although we're talking about very high-level problems, what we're going to discuss here is very low-level leadership, and so we'll be able to work through those. What we're not going to talk about today is the actual partisanship, whether it's Republican or Democrat. We're not going to talk about things that are political in nature. We're going to discuss leadership and how we work through that. So I will do my best to tailor that and to walk through it. But today on TUC0's Talks, we're talking about congressional inquiries and about the leadership of university presidents. All right, so welcome to TUC0's Talks. Today is going to be a lot different than what we've done. I grabbed my coffee, we're going to sit down, we're going to have a conversation, and we're just going to walk through. I would love it if you would write in the comments about what did you think? When you watched it, what did you hear? Some of it is completely unbelievable, and some of it is, okay, I understand where they're coming from. So, well, I just want to know. So please do that. But before we get into it, today is October 7th, obviously the day that will live in infamy, as FDR said. And, I can't help but think of the things that have happened in my lifetime that remind me of the feeling that they must have been going through. So obviously 9/11 comes back to me, and I'm sure October 7th for a lot of people in Israel, and even for me, viewing that as a person who's been in the region, and my heart, my prayer goes out to those that are affected, all the way from Pearl Harbor to 9/11 and obviously October 7th. So today we're going to discuss a little bit about what has happened on the Ivy League campuses and why specifically Harvard, Penn, and MIT presidents were called to a testimony before Congress. And it all really comes off the heels of the October 7th terrorist attack. And that was something, obviously, that was horrible, deplorable, and I don't think anyone at any time would state anything different from the universities and obviously from the U.S. government and what I would say. From there, we've seen that anti-Semitic talk has increased 300% in the following months. And so there has been a lot of scrutiny on the Ivy League campuses who have seen a massive increase in anti-Semitic talk and rhetoric. And so they were called in to say, what's going on? Why is this happening? And how are you addressing it? And how are you making it safe? And so that is fair. That is something that Congress, both sides of the aisle, took exception to and talked through. I will say both sides of the aisle, Republican and Democrat. There were some that were using propaganda and partisanship and bringing things up, but majority of the people were asking great questions. I was very excited to hear Congress asking, and sometimes they were really tough questions. And you as a leader are going to have tough questions. That's why you are there. You're there to fend off attacks that are coming your way. You're also there to assess if you have a problem, and if you do, to set the vision to fix those problems. And we'll walk through multiple problems that came out of this, but really I think it comes down to one major problem that the leadership needs to address. And it's very difficult, but it can be done, and it should be done, and you at all stages of leadership should recognize it and move through it. So one of the things that I love is a quote from Dr. Jordan Peterson. He says, when you have something to say, silence is a lie. And that is exceptional. That is something that you as a leader need to understand and that you need to put into your vocation. If you have something to say and you hold on to it because you don't want to offend anyone, or if you don't want to have the hard conversations, then you are lying to yourself. You're lying to your company, your corporation, your team, whatever it is that you're leading, and ultimately your failing. So that is what we're going to see, and that's where we're going to go. So I'm going to walk through a couple things that I wrote down. Normally I don't do this. Normally I love just having a conversation, but there's so much to go on in this 5 hours that I want to tailor the conversation to the key aspects of what we need to learn. So I wrote down October 5th testimonies had 3 presidents with their Jewish students behind them. So they're sitting in front of Congress, they're testimonying, they're the witnesses, and behind them, obviously, are their staff, but behind that are Jewish students that talked to Congress prior. So realizing they're behind you now, the people that you're charged to lead and to protect. Like I said, there was pandering going on both sides, but the tough questions came, and unfortunately, the answers fell short. And they fell short on multiple levels. One, they didn't understand what was going on. 2, they didn't have the information that they should have had. And then 3, they provided canned answers to questions, and the canned answers came across as cold. They came across as not caring. They came across as not empathetic. And ultimately, with their students behind them and them unable to engage in a conversation, they came as they didn't care about their people. And I'm not saying that's the truth. I'm not saying I understand all the intricacies that are going on. I'm saying that's how it came across. And you as a leader need to understand it's not always what you say. It's how you say it and how you engage. And so in times like this that it's going to come across that it's not going well, you need to follow up with your team, and you need to hopefully sit down with them beforehand, explain to them what's going on, and then follow up after. And so having those conversations are going to be important. Building relationships before things go wrong is the critical part. And that's the part of being a leader, making sure that you are always ready for things to happen that are not great, to have the relationship with people so that when things do go wrong, everything works out. And so those are the critical things that can set you up for success even before we start. So let me walk you through the problems that I saw, and then possible solutions and things that you as a leader need to think through. One of the things is every president said that the things that were happening on October 7th were deplorable and were against what they thought was right. Every single one of them. But none of them were willing to step out and do anything about it. And that's where you as a leader, if you see something that is wrong, you have to make the tough decisions, and you have to create the environment that makes it safe. And there are so many times that you're going to be villainized and that people are not going to understand what you're doing or what you're thinking, but you ultimately have to have the conversation with people, and you have to do what's right, even when it's very, very difficult to do what is right. And so that leads to another question of what is right? And we'll get into that. It was very evident that the faculty at each of the schools had a lack of diversity of thinking. And that's hard, right? And so when we talk about diversity, there's so many different kinds, and it's so critical to have diversity in your organization because you want to be able to understand what people are going through. You want people to be able to go talk to people and to have that. But you also need to have diversity of thought. And if you don't, you get into groupthink. And if you don't have somebody who's going to be able to tell you something different, then you're not going to be able to see what's around the corner. And when you have percentages like 80-1 favoring one way over another, that is a problem. And for leaders not to understand that and not to see that, that's a problem. So you need to assess your organization. You need to assess where your group think could come into an issue, and you need to make sure that you can get out of that. That is a major problem for leaders. All right. The presidents were unaware that they received $1.5 billion from an outside country, organization, to present material on their agendas. 1.5 billion. Like, I understand that if you don't know the details of your finances, but that's a very, very large number. And you have to understand, why are people giving that much money for you to teach certain subjects? That's a problem. And so when you are looking through that, you need to be asking the right questions. And I loved their answer of, just because we accept money doesn't mean that there are any strings attached. And that's true. However, if you put $1.5 billion into a football team, and then you look around and say, I wonder why we have a really good football team and why we don't have a very good swimming team, then you're not understanding leadership at all. So leaders, understand where your money's coming from, understand where you're putting your emphasis into, and always ask the question. And even if there are no strings attached to your funding, you still need to know where it's going. And you need to understand, how am I going to present both sides of the story, and how am I going to walk this? Okay. I wrote down, one president appeared to know the right answer, but completely unwilling to admit it. And there were a couple times where there were pauses, and the indication on the face was, okay, I know what the right answer is, but I can't say it. That's a problem. That is a massive problem. And so you as a leader are charged to do what you think is right. You were hired because you were assessed to have the right answers. So speak the truth. Make sure that you're not in a groupthink. Make sure you understand the other aspects of it. But that's where you come in as the leader, as the person who's setting those examples. So a lot of the presidents were like, well, we want to have freedom of speech. And so we're bringing in speakers that we know and we totally disagree with, but we don't want to limit the free speech. But we continually bring those people in. Well, if you continually preach and teach bad philosophies, students are going to learn bad philosophies. I am not one that says, hey, we should limit free speech. But I am one that says, all right, if I am a teaching organization, I need to be able to share all sides, and then I need to teach why one side is wrong versus the other. And so we need to do better as leaders of understanding there are multiple ways to go about things, but we have to be able to focus our teams and lead them through. Another part of where I think the university presidents missed is their lack of understanding of why schools started. So schools started back in ancient Greece time, and first it was designated that we want to teach moral correctness to our soldiers as they are going out to ensure that they're acting and doing the right things with the orders that they have. Their charge is to defend Sparta and to take over other parts. And so they want to make sure that that is happening correctly and that the soldiers are not going off on their own and being barbarians. It was later changed that we are going to teach all how to be good citizens. That was the reason that we started schools. It has completely changed, and we have ventured off from we're here to teach how to be good citizens, and we're teaching how to be morally correct. The number one lesson and the whole purpose that we're having this conversation and that this is on TU0's Talks is you must have the moral courage to stand up and do what is right. You have to. That's imperative. That is the number one characteristic of a leader is moral integrity. The ability to do the right thing, even when it's hard, even when no one's looking. To stand up and say, I am going to do what's right. And the problem that was presented, that was evident after watching the 5 hours and 21 minutes of discussion, is there is a lack of moral integrity. There is a lack of doing what is right. There is an understanding of what is right, and they're not doing. And so you as a leader need to really assess what's going on in your organization. You need to verify that you are doing it the right way. And so if you're wondering what truth is, if you're wondering what right is, this is where I would tell you to go. One, it's within you. You know what is right or wrong. You may choose to do wrong, but you know. The second part is making sure that you take care of your people. And we talk about this all the time, but how university presidents would not go against anti-Semitic talk and say they are going to protect the Jewish students when those same students are 4 rows behind you is, in my mind, unfathomable. They have broken trust. They have broken relationships. They have broken confidence. And I don't know how you get that back. And so what I need you to do as a leader is always to take care of your people. Now, there are some times that you need to discipline and you need to correct. But if people are being hurt, then you need to be the one who steps up, and you need to have the tough conversations. That is your team. That is your responsibility. You are the one who sets the vision. You are the one who sets the culture, and you need to address it. And so ultimately, the lack of moral fortitude has led to a culture problem that has given some people the perception that they have the right to do whatever they want, to say whatever they want, and not be held accountable for their actions. Now, again, I'm all for free speech and having communication. I think it's the bedrock of the Constitution. There's a reason why it's up front. And so I just think you as a leader need to assess your organization and say, is it beneficial? Is it something that is causing another person harm, fear, intimidation? And we see it not just in the schools, but we see it in the business. But you need to go and look at your organization and say, what do we do well? What do we not do well? Is there some problem that we have internally? And am I addressing those issues? And am I working through them? And all of this goes back to moral fortitude. Take care of your people. So, all right, that was a lot. And, if you differ, if you counter, if you think that I got it wrong, please put it in the comments. Let's have those conversations. Let's talk about it. Y'all have a great week. Thanks for joining in. This is TUC0's Wright. Check it out.